There's a rising surge in people stealing fuel. Have you gone up to the pumps and stole some fuel and run away? People are skint. Normal people are doing it. People are saying it's organised crime, but it's not. It's normal people who are skint, need to fill their car up and they run. Have you done it? What's going on?
Fuel theft has risen by 13% in the 50 days since the Iran conflict began, pushing fuel prices higher. More people are filling up and driving off without paying, or claiming they've no way of paying once they get to the till. Some people are using cloned plates to avoid being tracked, but forecourts are fighting back with more pay at pump and refusing fuel to offenders. We've got a guy here who works at a petrol station. Are you having problems with fuel theft?
Of course, always. This is ongoing issue. I'm dealing with the police and everything is never happening. It's not improving.
And have you noticed a sharp rise recently in fuel theft?
At the moment, I know people get struggling with the fuel prices, everything going up. It's not about them. Even think about your mortgage interest. Everything is gone up.
So is this just another worrying sign that the cost of living crisis is driving more people to commit crime?
Drivers in the UK are stealing almost £200,000 of fuel from petrol stations every single day. Increased costs since the start of the Iran war has led to more people taking their frustrations out on staff, we're told, and refusing to pay, with incidents said to have shot up by a fifth since February. Petrol costs here have hit a new high since 2022, but the industry group Forecourt Eye says it's now looking at installing facial recognition cameras at the pump to try and crack down on the staggering amount of theft.
Petrol stations across the UK are reporting a huge rise in people filling up their cars and driving away without paying. Some independent forecourts are saying that what used to happen a handful of times a year is now happening every week, and in some cases every single day. And before anybody starts, no, I am not saying go and steal petrol, but I am saying maybe we should ask why this is happening in the first place. Because when one person steals petrol, that's one story. When petrol stations across the UK are all saying the same thing at the same time, that's a pattern. And we spent years watching the cost of living spiral. Petrol has gone up, diesel has gone up, food has gone up, rent has gone up. And again, I'm not saying that that makes theft okay, but also pretending that thousands of people just randomly decided to become criminals overnight, that doesn't properly explain what's happening either. If more and more people are making desperate decisions, maybe the conversation shouldn't end with, well, stealing is wrong. We know it's wrong. The real question is, why are more people ending up in a position where this is becoming a nationwide problem? Because if your only answer is, well, they should just pay, you've completely missed the point. Maybe it's time that we stopped acting surprised that people can't afford to fill up their cars and started asking why it's become so expensive in the first place.
Oh my gosh, I just went to the petrol station, and as I went to queue up, I went to pay at the till, and the guy goes, the pump that you're saying, pump 3, someone's just paid for it. So basically, this guy who was next to me gave my number pump because my pump was cheaper than his, so that he could pay less. How cheeky is that? So his pump was like £26 or something, so luckily it wasn't like, you know, £100 or something. But yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. I did notice that when he was in the queue in front of me, he kept like looking behind at me a little bit, like kind of shiftily, and then yeah, after he paid, he kind of just like ran out the shop. Oh my gosh. Oh well.
Well, apparently people are going to the petrol pumps and just stealing fuel. Well, it doesn't surprise you with the cost of it at the moment. The cost is absolutely through the roof. But people are saying there's organised gangs doing this. But it's not just organised gangs, apparently. It's just normal people who are skint. People are even going to the fuel pumps, filling their car up and just telling the shop assistant that I've got no money on me, and then just driving off. Like literally being honest and saying I can't afford to pay for it. This is an absolute crisis. But all the big fuel companies and petrol companies, they can afford it, but the independents can't. So you're taking money out of a small man's pocket if it's a small station. But apparently all the big petrol stations are all covered. All of them are covered. They're totally covered. So they don't actually lose any money. But the real victims are the consumers, because we're the ones that are paying through the roof. And the price of people stealing is only going to get put back on us.
I've just filled my car up at 177 a litre and worked out how much Rachel Reeves is getting from that in VAT. It's no wonder she's not in such a hurry, is it, to lower the prices at the pump. The government's doing quite well out of this. Do you think we could ask them to publish the figures of what they've made out of the Iran war? Because we're not allowed to profiteer from the war, are we? We're not allowed to do price gouging. But she doesn't appear to be doing anything to actually stop it. She's not taking VAT or fuel, has she? She's making money from it. It's funny how she doesn't like to admit that. She doesn't talk about that. She doesn't talk about where she's making money from us. I mean, obviously, in the ridiculous taxes. Highest tax burden on families in peacetime ever. I realise now we're not in peacetime, but we were in peacetime. But we're not at war. Are we at war? Keir Starmer, are we at war? What's going on there? Because Kemi Badenoch was going to take us to war, but then she U-turned and she didn't take us to war. And you weren't taking us to war, but we're at war because that's the reason that the cost of living is going up. And Rachel Reeves is making 25% on every litre of petrol that is now from 177 up to £2 nearly. We're profiteering from war, aren't we? But we're not at war. So what are we? I mean, if we apply that question to the government, just fucking incompetent. 25 pence a litre of the high rising fuel costs is going to the government. Wow. I mean, it's the same with education. So we're taxing disabled children for being disabled. So it comes as no surprise that we are taxing the motorist. But we're on the side of the working person. Well, we're not, are we? 53% of the people in this country take out more from the Treasury than they put into it. 53%. Whose side are we on? Who are we supporting? It's not the working person. What is the working person? Is the working person somebody that is on their hands and knees scrubbing floors? Or is the working person somebody who is in the markets? Is the working person the tax advisor that perhaps doesn't get paid by the government? Is the working person the restaurant owner? Is the working person the child carer? I mean, who is the working person? Because it feels like the working person depends entirely on whether Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves like them or not. Whether they've actually worked in that job. And if they have, then you can be a working person. But if not, you can't. We don't know what a working person is, but I can tell you what a working person isn't. A working person isn't supported by this Labour government. A working person couldn't be less supported by this Labour government if they tried. Then we've got the vomit-inducing video, or interview that Beth Rigby did with Keir Starmer. Does anyone else think that she's just massively in love with him? Look at the way she looks at him. She's gone all simpery-eyed on him. She's had a complete glow-up, and it's effectively PR. It's not an interview. There's not a difficult question in there. It has no hallmarks of an interview. It has all the hallmarks of a trailer for Keir Starmer Limited. It's got nothing to do with Peter Mandelson. It's got everything to do with, oh, I've hauled myself over the coals. Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. How does that get us out of this hole? Morgan McSweeney? Any answers on that? Is this beautifully timed interview anything to do with the fact that you know that that phone will get found at some point and those messages will appear at some point and oh my goodness me, that's boiling water. That's not just even hot. But you expect this country to believe that you're on the side of the working person. When we have people who voted against a national rape inquiry, and that's the entire Labour government, coming out and saying that they're on the side of women and children, forgive me if I call bullshit. When we have a government who have inflicted the highest tax burden on an entire population in peacetime, yet take off 25% per litre of the heavily inflated fuel that we pay at the pump at the minute, forgive me if I say bullshit. Forgive me if the Prime Minister of said government spent his entire lead up to the general election and the manifesto itself saying, I will not put your council tax up, and has put council tax up, and has given the nod for 7 local authorities to put their council tax up by 9%, but he will not. I'll call bullshit. There are so many things that we could do this on. So many areas of our life where they lied and continue to lie consistently. It's farcical. We are a joke. We all say it. It's all over social media. It's everywhere you look. This Labour government lied. And then the mouthpieces like Beth Rigby get airtime, yet Andrew Neil is banned from interviewing Keir Starmer. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? When we hear that Putin bans who interviews him or Trump bans who interview him, we have calls of censorship. We do not work like that. We are a democracy. Let's see Andrew Neil interview Keir Starmer. Let's see him dismantle him within the first 30 seconds. I'd give it a shot. I'm up for it. Turns out he's not so much. 25% of what you pay at the petrol pump is going into Rachel Reeves' pocket. It's coming out of the pocket of the working person and going into Rachel Reeves' pocket. Now you tell me whether you still think she's on the side of the working person. Rachel Reeves is taxing disabled children for being disabled. I wouldn't have her around for dinner, would you?
People stealing from petrol station forecourts has gone through the roof. This guy is actually completely shocked that it was somebody in a Jaguar, because before, historically, it was someone in a balaclava turning up with a dodgy van, trying to fill up with petrol and run off before anybody could stop them. But now it's just everybody. People, since the Strait of Hormuz has been closed and the price of oil has increased, more and more people that would look like people who would never do it are stealing. And what's interesting is they're going to regional remote petrol stations to be able to do it. There's been a 23% increase in fuel theft, and it's cost 1.2 million in stolen fuel in the last few months. This is a massive problem. Massive problem. Well, sorry, 1.2 million a week. This is a massive problem. And I was like, what would be the answer for it? And I think one of the big answers could be a change in forecourt design. Now, I don't think most of the forecourts that have been developed, apart from the big ones on the motorways, have been designed with any intention or any thought in a very long time. So I was thinking back to where have they redesigned a retail environment and gone and created it in ways where you can't actually leave until you showcase your receipt. Or how do you proof of purchase, right? And I went to Primark the other day. Shouts to Primark, but Primark was like, you couldn't leave without flashing your receipt over this scanner, and it'll open the doors for you to relieve. And I was like, if you did that for petrol, right, it could run. But not only that, but if you did a number plate scanner, which they already do, but the only thing about the current process is that when you have a number plate scanner, it doesn't show you back the number plate, so you know that this has been tracked. That's a psychological thing. So you now are aware that this is going to be happening. Look, some people may have fake plates, so that's not a universal way of getting around it. But that's the first thing. I would show it back to them on a display so they know that we've got it. But I'd also do the same. I've seen this in supermarkets. I would show a camera of their face also. But then the last thing I would do is I would just add barriers. I don't know why this hasn't happened, but I would add barriers to be able to leave the forecourt, which only I could release, or I could release with a scan of my ticket, just like you would in a parking lot. That is by far the best and most radical way to save all of this money, and it's going to increase over time. And it's at the biggest cost of forecourts.
One thing I do know is that I need to know that fuel prices need to go down, because you can't have people robbing fuel, you can't have people running away, you can't have people doing theft, basically, because it's against the law, isn't it? It's stealing. Even though people are having a hard time, even though people are suffering under this cost of living crisis, which is getting everybody down, which is annoying everyone, you just can't have normal, good working people having to steal just to use their car, or to use their lorry, or to use their form of transport. You can't have people just stealing, because it's against the law at the end of the day. So what are they going to do? What is Andy Burnham going to do? What is the government going to do? What are the fuel companies going to do? They can't just blame everything on the war in Iran, because that's the usual get-out clause, isn't it? There's a war in Iran, so all the fuel has to go up. Well, not really. Do something about it. Help the people out. Please, help the people. Well, people stealing fuel is on the up, and what's being said by major outlets like LBC and the BBC is that £200,000 per day is being stolen from the UK petrol pumps. Now, this is crazy, but it also highlights that there's a massive problem. It also highlights this problem in the cost of living. People are skint. This is not organised crime. This is normal people stealing, turning to stealing. Think about it.